Hey Winter, we've been working on a full modern RTS, co-op campaign, multiple multiplayer game modes, working alongside people like Giant Grant Games, Cats, Scarlet, over the last 3 years, in secret. Would you like to play it? Do you have a video or something? Like, that sound... No. Yeah, we have a video, but we asked, would you like to play it? Anyways, here's ZeroSpace. I want to make it clear to start things off. This is not an ad. It's not sponsored. Starlance reached out and said, hey, Winter, we'd love you to check out our game. If you think it's worth it, if you enjoy it, it'd be awesome if you could show it off. And, well, one, we're here. And two, if you haven't yet checked out the Kickstarter campaign, which, if Jimmy didn't screw up the time zones, went live alongside this video. And I think they have some really cool stretch goals there as well for other sorts of modes and just development in general. But clearly, there's already a lot there. This is not like curated video. This is gameplay of me playing against the lead of multiplayer, Cats. You might know him from his StarCraft 2 commentary and professional games, but he's taken lead of multiplayer in ZeroSpace. And little does he know, in this game, which I wanted to show off, we have a full game later of me against Cats, but I had actually played for a couple hours against the AI, so he was essentially taking it easy on me, assuming I'm just coming in. But I was enjoying microing, in this case, the Protectorate and their commandos, which are like a combination of Reaper Marine. They have a jetpack, and they feel really great to micro. The engine feels... And if you've watched me, my reviews of other RTS games, or just my stream in general, you know I would play red circles versus blue squares as long as it felt good and you could stutter step the red circles well enough. But in this case, I really feel like they've done a great job. I was very impressed by what they have even so far in pre-alpha. Not even, like, alpha is on the timeline if you look at the Kickstarter, but I think the proof is in the pudding, as people who are hopefully at least twice my age say. There's already a lot there, and they're looking to develop on that. So hopefully you like what you see. If you have the means and motivation, it'd be awesome to check it out. I'll give you, next up, we're going to have a short bit about the campaign. They actually already have a mission and the basic framework of what they're thinking about, or what the lead campaign designer, Grant, is thinking about. Go over that, and then we're going to jump into multiplayer and the factions we have so far. And yes, showing off my crowning achievement in ZeroSpace. Score screen's already there. It shows damage count. There's so much exciting stuff. But with that, let's go ahead and jump into the campaign so we can jump back into multiplayer afterwards. Thank you for tuning in. So the first thing when I jumped into this screen for the demo for the ZeroSpace campaign was, the first thing I thought of was Star Wars Empire War. Galactic Conquest. And I know I'm tickling a lot of the nostalgia buttons for the, if I know my audience, Star Wars Empire at War and Star Wars Battlefront Galactic Conquest was Empire, something like that. Either way, I was immediately hit with nostalgia for that. And that seems to be the basis of the ZeroSpace campaign so far, which is you jump around to different planets, you have different sorts of missions you have to do depending on the location, and eventually, depending on the storyline, conquering certain worlds or defending, what have you, so far. Only the basic framework is there right now, but this is apparently also something for a more persistent co-op where you could throw your weight behind, let's say, the humans. And the humans need to conquer X amount by X time. I think there's a lot of cool... As soon as I saw this, I'm like, oh, interesting. But there's not too much to look at right now, still very much in development. But I'm immediately interested when I see this sort of screen. So that seems to be the intent. As for the mission, which I wanted to focus on the multiplayer today, very reminiscent of the early StarCraft 2 missions. Jimmy might have a clip for us real quick of it, just to give you a taste. But so far seems to be very much inspired by StarCraft 2 Wings of Liberty, which is one of, if not the most fun RTS campaigns, in my opinion. So not a bad place to be inspired by, especially with the lead campaign designer, Giant Grant Games, or Grant for short. Yeah, I think he knows his way around StarCraft 2 Wings of Liberty. I don't know about you guys, but so... I'm excited. Honestly, as soon as I saw this, I was like, oh, a campaign I might actually play. Multiplayer. The bread and butter biscuit of any competitive RTS. ZeroSpace has a little bit more to get into before we get started, especially compared to something like StarCraft 2. Right now, there are 2 factions and 3 sub-factions, or mercenaries. And for release, there are planned 6 distinct, unique factions, much like StarCraft 2 races, in the fact they have different units, tech, heroes, talents, all of that. And the mercenaries as well, with their different flavor of strategy. And that sounds like a lot to keep track of, a lot to balance. But thankfully, you're going to be able to stick with your normal build of complaining to the same person about balance in RTS. Yes, Scarlet. That's Scarlet. We'll be taking lead of balance in ZeroSpace, and if it's any indication right now, I think we're off to a good start, as the factions feel very unique, very distinct. They have a lot of different fun-to-use units that are also very familiar, like the Protectorate. Okay, it's Terran. Space Marines, tanks, big guns, big rockets, big explosions. Played like Terran. I played like Terran. I succeeded like Terran. The heroes, I wanna make it clear, the heroes are not like Warcraft 3 heroes. You don't pick up items. You're not leveling up heroes individually. You level up your faction as a whole, which levels up your heroes so that way it's still competitive later on, but also allows you access to talents. The talents are not usually individually game breakers. They do things like 20% movement speed and 10% range. But combined, they can push you towards a certain direction with your build or strategy to combat your opponent. And you can go roll around, and eventually, if the game goes long enough, you get the entire talent tree. Though it gets harder as time goes on. And this is where the mercenaries factor in as well. The mercenaries are not only a set of units you call in very much like the StarCraft 2 campaign, but they also offer their own set of talents. The ultimate abilities are faction-specific here, like big airdrops or explosive mechs. But the different mercenaries can be applied to any of the main factions, whether it's the plant-based Zerg of Grell or the more Terran-esque Protectorate. But the mercenaries add that extra wrinkle, and you can both potentially pick, as it stands right now, pick the same mercenary faction. So that is an interesting way of kind of balancing it out. Like, say the Grell just stereotypically are a little weaker when it comes to their frontline fighting capability. They're more reliant on swarming with units and having full map control. You need something maybe a little bit more damage, a little bit more stability. Maybe get a Valkaru Shock Trooper with its huge HP and AoE, but doesn't do as well against large groups of units. But you already got that covered. So a lot of options, a lot of possibilities. And at the same time, though, it doesn't feel like you're sitting there trying to read every little tech. It is very fluid. You'll see the game in a moment here. And that, remember, I've only played a handful of games, and I already kind of got a handle on it, even if I don't know all the late game dramatic units. But it feels very fluid. I was very surprised going in that like the heroes feel like a fun part of the early game that isn't overwhelming. You start out like any relatively generic RTS, but instead of workers, you have just buildings which automatically mine your hexite. You have harvesters which mine flux. A lot of the mechanics are very intuitive coming from StarCraft 2 or really any RTS. I think they should be quite obvious. But why am I sitting here talking about it? Why not just show you? Anyways, here is Cats after he took the gloves off, the Grell gloves, or whatever they have in their hands. After that game I showed you earlier, he's like, oh, okay. All right, let's play a real game. So, thank you for watching the overview. Thank you for watching the rest, but now we're going to jump into some real gameplay. And I want to talk about more generally, how does the game feel to play? Because this is pre-alpha, a lot of the specific mechanics and the units and the numbers are all going to change. They're all going to change. They're all going to be a lot different than you see right now. But the things that won't change very much are the engine, how the game feels, and the general look of it. So the first things first, I wasn't blown away. I kind of like the art style, but it took a little bit of getting used to. I think it definitely looks different than a lot of other games of the genre, while still feeling kind of familiar. But I've talked about, I'll play red squares versus blue circles if it feels good. And right now, ZeroSpace feels the closest to StarCraft 2 in terms of like just the smoothness of the units, the responsiveness. We're playing this online. Building complete. So it feels great. Like that's the reason you're watching this. I'll tell you right now, that's the reason you're watching this video. Is everything else, if you have a good solid feel to it, and this is coming from a multiplayer perspective. As someone who's played StarCraft 2 somewhat competitively and commentated somewhat competitively for a long time, this is the closest I felt a game has gotten. I don't know what specifics are involved. You probably have to talk to Marv. You might have seen him on the Kickstarter about that, but it feels great to play. Both the control scheme as well as the units themselves. At no point did I feel like my units were doing weird pathfinding things. There are some placeholder animations and stuff like that. And obviously, a lot of the units are work in progress, even though they do have a look, but they're constantly being adjusted, from my understanding. Like, for example, the hero doesn't have a sound right now when they attack, because this Mandalorian knockoff is probably not the final look, but it is the hero I picked to start. But in general, the game, it looks smooth, and it feels smooth. It feels as smooth as it looks here when you watch these fights. They've also, so you start out with an operating tower which spawns hexite extractors, or the blue, totally not minerals. Well, the operating tower doesn't actually mine. It is the extractors that mine. The operating tower is the only way to get those extractors. So if you want to deny them mining, you could kill the extractor or deal with the operating tower and then deal with the extractors. You can slap a turret on top of it, stuff like that. There's a harvester there, so you just saw one of the interesting map mechanics. Occasionally, a few minutes in, a ship will crash. A ship that was full of flux, or purple, or your tech resource, essentially Vespene gas. But the harvester automatically mines out on the field, wherever it is. It's a pretty tanky unit as well. But the stuff that falls from the sky there, essentially, is worth 4 times as much. So that's what I'm going for here. I've got my commandos, and we just reached tech level 1, which I think... Oh, and the first battle begins. That was a sick dodge. Okay, alright, we'll go over this battle in a moment. I want to show off my micro before my hero dies. Nobody need to see that. But as you can see there, the hero is not a god. But I'm going to back it up a bit. This is, as I mentioned, just a recording of me playing, so you can kind of get the feel. So, the Grell hero on the other side, Relicus, as I've named it, has an AoE slow ability that prevents movement abilities when it hits but it's telegraphed, and you can use the commando jump ability. Commandos are like Marine Reapers. You can use the commando jump ability to dodge it, essentially. If you use the jump ability, you see here on the queue, then you can actually get out of it beforehand. And these are some, like, all the combined, I like it a lot, all right? I'm trying to, like, struggle for it's good. It's solid. And I like what they've done with it. It makes it very easy. It took a little getting used to, because I'm used to having, like, select different units. You have to tab through. You have to give different control groups. No. You can control the hero abilities as well as the commandos. You can do it all without having to have specific control groups, and it doesn't feel clunky. So I see the thing throwing, jump the commandos out of the way, and then, of course, I abandoned my hero, which immediately gets murdered. And then I accidentally brought up the text screen because I have it on. So in StarCraft 2, my select all army hotkey is the tilde key next to 1. That is the text screen key by default in ZeroSpace. Select all army is, of course, F2. But in a panic, I tried to select all army and I brought up the text screen, which brings us to the text screen accidentally. But I'm going to try to pause my recording on that. So you see here, I'm like, please save me. But so this is what it looks like if Jimmy hasn't already included a bit about it. This is not a final method of doing this, but I reached faction level 1, which improved my hero and allows me access to the level 1 tech tree. So you can pick one of each level, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then if you get more levels past that, you start filling in if it gets to that, which can happen after like 15 or so minutes. But you have things like improved recall ability, which is one of the top bar ones. I didn't explain the top bar, but I think if you've ever seen StarCraft 2 co-op, you got a pretty good idea of what they're going for there. You got movement speed, and then based on the mercenary faction you picked, you get access to different abilities. And of course, the Grell have their own tech tree there. I don't interact with the filthy Grell and their grass and their acid, and also it looked intimidating. It's kind of like it's very reminiscent of Zerg and kind of a little more complicated to understand. So I went with Protectorate. Like. There are a lot more factions planned. We've already been over that. But you want to go for mech, or you want to go for infantry. You can focus more on the hero. There's a lot of different ideas, a lot of different stuff. None of these individually are game breakers. Like, they're going to tilt the game once you finish it. It's going to be, boom, okay. Maybe the level 5 ultimate abilities, but they still cost energy in the blue. So the yellow bar... I think this UI will be updated, but the yellow bar is your XP towards the next level, and then the blue bar is your energy for your top bar abilities. Also an interesting anti-snowball kind of mechanic, something that gives you a benefit even if you're behind, is when your units die, they add to the blue bar. So you get the ability to do more call down stuff as well. But most of the early fights, I chose the improved recall ability, so it doesn't cost any energy, and I can potentially get out of the fight. When your hero dies, it takes about a minute to rebuild. But like I said, your hero is just like, I'd say it's about as strong as like 4 or 5 early units, and then the abilities can be huge, but you see me now panicking because hitting that select all army key. And microing these... sometimes I got stuck microing the commandos because it feels so good. It feels like SC2 Marines, but better, actually, because they have the... Honestly, I could see myself sitting there microing commandos all day. In fact, in this game, there's that jump ability, which can be used to chase as well. In this game, I probably overdo it on the commandos because I don't have a lot of experience with the tech tree, the other units. So, I've added in bastions, which are a frontline, like, shotgun... Okay, they're kind of like Hellbat Marauders. Honestly, they're more like Fire Bats, is the inspiration there. I am... So, yeah, there are some issues with bringing up tech screens, but what you saw there, I really like the ideas they've had with control, which is, if you press tab, it brings up a combined production card. If you press tab twice, like tap tap, it brings up your potential research card. You can also hotkey things like normal like control groups, barracks, whatever, as well. There is veterancy for units that get kills. Right now, I believe it's like 5% attack speed and health for each point of veterancy. So with the basic units, it's not huge, but that's a very influx, puns intended, mechanic.
Upgrade complete.
And you need, in order to get, so with the tech research lab, you need to have the level 2 HQ, which requires a super factory. Or advanced factory. I don't know if it's called super factory or advanced factory, but I've been calling it super factory. Right now, I do have access to more units. I have just chosen to stick with the commandos and the bastions. Because honestly, they do quite well. Ooh, we're able to dodge out of the way, but the bastions are not. I targeted the hero pretty well. I go right back. Don't sit in the fire. There are some issues with like A-clicking on the rocks there, which have a very large hitbox. Ooh, that was the big Grell ability. That I forget the name of that. I don't know the Grell. All right, I'm not here to know the Grell. I'm here to know. The commandos do well enough. Get the commandos out of the way. Try to dodge away with the hero. He's got some of the stronger units there. You saw that. Was my hero dying. He's got a lot of the AoE ability units too. But even if my hero dies, that doesn't mean the fight is over. There's a very good chance that he overcommitted to kill it if I was a better player. But all the things I'm clicking also could have been done on the minimap. I told, like, this game is... I agreed to go hard. So this is Katz using all the knowledge he has as a experienced player to, well, clearly have a lead here. As I haven't even touched his side of the map. I lost control of the center tower, which is your XP gain for your faction.
I hear your ping. Badass incoming.
Oh yes, and now we have our first, the Valkaru, which I think look amazing. The coolest. They've said the game is inspired by Mass Effect. You might see some similarities, but I did forget entirely about the mercenaries. Oh, the depot. The depot has a healing turret on it. You can upgrade it for 100 hexite. You can slap a basic turret, which is you can double the. You can do essentially a depot drop, which is making it double supply and double HP. And that, or you can do a healing drone. So that I built a depot for 100, slapped a healing drone for another 100, and now I have a pretty solid, like, it doesn't run out of energy. It just only heals one unit at a time. So pretty good early game, not as good later.
Not enough scrap, Commander.
I've started, I got my super factory, so I leveled up to level 2. I just want to say, like, the units feel, I really love the look. Oh yeah, there's some raised platforms that are specifically for your more mobile units to be able to use as like firing platforms. But they're importantly not in like key locations. They're areas like kind of in between bases and such.
You're the boss.
I'm obviously like I'm excited for this. As these fights, yeah, there's the dodge. I don't know all the Grell abilities, so I can't dodge them perfectly. I'm sitting in a lot of the AoE there. Looks like he's got some of those totally not roaches. We got more units coming in, some of my Valkaru. You can tell the mercenary units there as well. I got my Valkaru hounds on the front line. He also has Valkaru as his mercenaries, but I don't think he's added any in yet. The mercenaries are on a charge cooldown, and they do cost money. You have to have a certain level of tech in order to use them. Dodge to the side, throw out the stun bolt, and then back off with the commandos and let the shock troopers tank. The shock troopers have like a plasma grenade launcher as opposed to a single target weapon. You see them, the big bulby boys.
Unit production complete.
I'm calling in reinforcements with my energy. Unfortunately, my hero gets sniped off. I built a Juggernaut tank. Some of the higher tech units are incredible, but also a little more work in progress. The Juggernaut tank is, I think it looks really good, but a lot of the tank sort of units, your results may vary. I ended up using this as one of my main units, like the hero getting bullied by the Juggernaut here. Don't need my hero when I have a Juggernaut tank. We get composite armor upgrade for the bastions,
Building up.
and the attack upgrade for the commandos, and another faction upgrade. I actually forgot to add the extra infantry damage upgrade as well.
Unit production complete. Production is
I gotta
now
say, this
idle.
is the point of the game where I've never been to this part of the tech tree. It's super interesting with the mercenaries added in.
Not enough.
I guess I'm gonna have to complain to the lead of balance, Scarlet.
Our units
Yes.
are under attack.
So it shouldn't take much of a stretch for you guys who already are convinced Scarlet
Unit production.
is the leader of the Zerg Cabal.
Production is now
Well, the Grell Cabal is here to stay, and honestly, Scarlet's ideas are really cool when they come to, especially a game like this, where you have so many different opportunities and abilities. And I don't think it's going to be easy to balance competitively. I'm not sure how the draft system is going to work, but overall, okay, and I'm relying a lot on my basic healing, and I clearly forgot to build units for a while. So I had some mercenary charges banked up.
Enemy in range.
I'm not sure if there's any way to decrease the time between mercenary charges. There's some talents or tech for that. I think talents is the best way to describe the faction tree, but all work in progress. The summary is, it feels great. Okay, like,
Control tower.
that's why you're watching this video. That's why you're here. Feels really good to play. I like a lot of the ideas. In fact, like, I usually at this point would be editing out or editing mentally things I didn't like that much. But even the towers for XP, I don't think it's not like Warcraft 3 Heroes where you need to use all your items and abilities perfectly.
Reinforcement ready.
Both the game and its UI and the kind of impact level of the heroes, I think is just about right. It's very easy to control them around with the rest of your army. There's clearly a lot of room for skill expression, I guess you could say. But at the same time, if you lose it, it's not nearly the end of the game. It is, in fact, a lot of the time, like right there, my hero died, his did not, yet I pushed him back halfway across the map because he got too far. I think it was one of those noob situations like at SC2, like look how much Hexite I have banked up. Oh yeah, yeah. Another thing, they're looking to have a fully customizable UI. At least this is what I was told, was being able to move around. Like, you want the mini-map in the middle of the screen? Go for it. You want the resource and supply count to be 5 times as large? Okay. But also, they already have some of the framework in place for customizing your UI for
Enemy in
you.
range.
I was able to switch the mini-map to the left, the correct side. The default is the right, but you can just mirror it.
Reinforcement ready.
But that is also really cool. So these fights, honestly, I've gotten into the stage of the game where I don't even recognize most of the units. But they are very cool. They all feel, like, everything feels very responsive. And I think even between the Protectorate units, it is very easy to tell the difference between them.
Enemy sighted.
My big mistake here in the later game was I didn't focus enough on my Harvester mining flux, aka the tech. So I'm over here building Marines and Marauders
Enemy in range.
up against
Enemy sighted.
something roughly equivalent with like Ultralisks and like Lurkers and upgraded Hydras. The only thing I have that's really competitive is the Juggernaut tank that I just lost, so.
Reinforcement ready. Production is now
Well, yeah, it's at this point that I realize I have likely lost the game. No, I kind of felt like that. So I upgrade the nuclear mech.
Reinforcement ready.
There's some really cool... It's going to be tough to balance the multiplayer abilities, I think, but...
Building complete. Unit production complete.
Orders, sir.
Production is now idle.
I just want to reiterate again. Yeah, he decides to go for the natural here. My production, if the hero's going to be camping out there, you can easily get caught. Even if the cannons aren't too strong, getting caught out And last time he came in, remember, we took care of him.
Upgrade complete.
Now my supply is pretty rough here. The operating towers are coming together, but I really do need flux in order to build stuff.
Building complete.
Oh yeah, it doesn't even get close to kind of the full spread of the later game units. You can see, you know what? So this is the combined production card, where there is a unique hotkey for each unit. And you can build from all of your production facilities simultaneously. Or you could pick which ones you want to use, hotkey them individually. This felt really good to use. This is like an advanced version of Terran production in StarCraft 2. It made it very easy to pick out. Now, as you can see, I'm just building commandos and bastions here, but
Commando awaiting instruction.
now the stingers, which very small yet fast, and have a tendency to surround you, sort of Grell units. Wonder what they're inspired by. And then a Reaver becomes... Wait. Yeah, he morphed, I don't know, into the Reaver. He's also got the Valkyro here. It is... The difficulty will be, I think, distinguishing. Like, the health bars right now are a little rough. Oh my god. I was so sad. I wanted to recall him, but he would have died if I cast the recall.
Annihilation from there, making annihilation ready.
I'm too broke for most of these things, so I just decide on the shock troopers, which are relatively cheap. He also is making great use of them. At this point, I've lost the game, but I want to get the nuclear mech.
Building complete.
Yeah, I got it locked down. I need the energy. Unfortunately, you can't really see how much energy you have, but I'm like, give me it. Oh yeah, I have another tech level. You see it rolling around. But the classic nuke into GG. So, it is a pretty decent AoE melee unit. And then when it dies, it explodes. But at this point, he's decided we want to see how it goes. So... very Command and Conquer-esque. But there you go, GG.
Enemy in range.
And you know what impressed me?
Building complete.
Stats. They already have a working score screen system with you can see there in the top left. You can see which units did the most. Like I would not kill for this in StarCraft 2, but I'd consider it. So there you have it. ZeroSpace, the new RTS by Starland Studios. I was really happy to be able to bring you guys so much of the game. I think that's kind of a testament to how confident they are. And I think that confidence is not misplaced. I was very surprised to see how, like, at the end of the day, I wanted to play more. And I think that's really the only definition. I've heard games are supposed to be fun. And I had fun. So that is my review of ZeroSpace as it is so far. Do with that what you will. With the Kickstarter, I'll be supporting it. And of course, I'll be following along. And hopefully, if you're interested, I will bring you more news and content on ZeroSpace. So thank you for watching. Thank you to Starlands. Thank you to everyone. I hope to continue to show you good games to the fans. Good luck, have fun. What made your day a little bit better? Kickstarter's in the description if you want to at least check it out. See you next time. Stay chill.